Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to True North. I'm Renata Marino. How's everybody? TJF. Thank goodness it's Friday, right? How's everyone? I'm excited to be here. It's a really good topic today. It's a hard topic. It's a really hard topic. But I'm excited to discuss it and share with you my journey. The topic is breaking generational patterns. And I never really knew about generational patterns. I didn't even know what they were until I started researching and reading and observing my own behavior, my own family history, my own former marriage, the type of relationships I was getting into. And I did some research and I investigated during COVID, actually. Spent a lot of time reading a lot of books and doing a lot of self-reflection. But I want to share with many of you, and this is a really hot topic, because a lot of us aren't aware of the patterns that we find ourselves in that are passed down from generation to generation. In terms of the types of relationships we get into, the communities we get into, the dynamics between parents, parent-child, the relationships that we gravitate toward and why. And a lot of us feel shame in that. But I want to discuss it. But before I get started, I want to show you something that I don't know how I found it. Well, it was in my daughter's room, and I don't know why it was in there. I guess I gave it to her years ago. But let me show you. This is my grandmother's. This is my grandmother's jewelry box. It has her initials on it. It has her initials on it. My mom gave this to me. It's not like an expensive one. It was from her wedding. I used to have all my jewelry in it. Now it's empty. Now I have one of those, those closets. I actually had it built in where it's a closet and then you lock for all your fancy jewelry. I don't really have any. I sold all my fancy jewelry. I had to. I sold it all. But I do have it where you lock it and there's drawers. I think it's the best way to hold. And then there's they have those little, you can line up your rings and then you can, I love that because then now it's a mess, but usually you could see everything. So it's really fast. I have this, it was my high school ring. Can you see this? If you can see it. This is my Sacred Heart ring that all the Sacred Heart people from all around the world, they have the same ring. It's onyx and it has the Sacred Heart symbol on it and then my class year. But I just started wearing it recently. I felt empowered to. Anyway, for some reason, my daughter didn't want, I saw it. I think my cleaning lady might have moved it in my daughter's room. And I'm like, do you want that? Do you want me to take that out? Because it's taking up a lot of space on your shelf. You could put your monitor there. And she's like, yeah, can you take it? I'm like, okay. And I said, if you don't want it, you don't speak up. So I took it. And this morning, I felt compelled to open it. I'm like, what's inside it? Is there any jewelry? What? I just felt drawn to open it. And nothing was in it except these. Can you see these? These apparently back in the day, women used to, during my grandmother's time, which was, I don't know when that was, but I'm a Gen Xer, so whatever that means. And she's been gone for a while. But they wear, when you get a corsage and there's a pin that you put, these are like fancy pins. They're like pearl pins. So on the edge is a pearl. So there's, one of them is a darker pearl. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 white pearls, and then there's 1 black pearl. So these are you can, it's all cloth material here. She just put it in, but she used these for, I don't know what, pinning things on when she worked. My grandmother worked in a factory during, was it World War II? World War I? World War II, where they were making parts of guns, and I remember she cleaned houses and she worked in a factory and, on a line, all the women did that. And I remember because this finger, like the top part of the finger, she said got caught in one of the machines and it fell off and they had to sew it back on. Like I know that because her finger was crooked. I always asked her, like, why is your finger crooked? And she told me. But anyway, I was thinking this morning when I was looking at all these, there's 2 drawers here. I was looking in here. I'm like, is there anything in here that I'm missing that, oh, here's another pin. So there were more. There's another pin. Hold on. See? So there were more. Oh, Jesus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 6 white, 1 black. So because I have, I don't know if it's my educational background, but I do a lot of, I studied a lot about symbolism growing up in high school. We did a lot of symbolism and I'm very in tune with that. And I find meaning in things. I do, whether or not it's true or not. I believe it is. Other people may not, but I believe it is. And so the way I look at these pins is and this relates to today's topic of breaking generational patterns. So my grandmother grew up in a very toxic environment. She grew up, there was a lot of alcohol. I don't know about drugs, but alcohol, fighting, just even her sister siblings, there was a lot of dissension and fighting. Everyone's always gossiping and it was a lot of negativity. And I know this because I grew up with this. I mean, I heard it sitting in the kitchen, is hearing it. And so there was just a lot. And my mom has talked about it. And my mom grew up in a toxic environment. You know, she was verbally abused. There was a lot of violence going on. And so it's the toxicity and the violence and the abuse has been passed down on my grandmother's side for it, probably even be before that, especially when there's no women's rights, nothing. And it goes back to even my mom was told by my grandmother and my grandfather that she wasn't allowed to go to college, that only her 2 brothers were allowed to go. And she could either pick nursing school, secretarial school, or what was the other one? Teacher. And she picked nursing. And, I'm sure my mom resents that. I'm sure it's, and it's not her fault. But, there was a lot of limitation for the women in all the generations before me. A lot of abuse, a lot of repression, a lot of fighting, a lot of alcohol abuse, violence. Half the stuff I don't even know what went on, but I know that existed. What these pins symbolized for me with my grandmother, as I'm very close with her, is the pain, the number of time, the big, huge hurt that happened in my grandmother's life. That's what these pins. So there's 6 white and 1 black. The black one was really bad. This black one, it's the only one. I'm sure it was one of the worst times in her life. The white ones are bad too, like pain, hurt, deception, abuse, whatever it was. And she had to go through it. That's how I see these pins. At least that's the hit I got this morning. And it was my grandmother sending me a message saying, you need to break the generational patterns. You need to break this. You need to not let someone abuse you. You need to make sure that you stand in your power. You need to get yourself in strong footing. You need to make sure that you don't put the man on the pedestal all the time. It's all about the man. It's all about the man. You need to pour all the love into yourself. And that you need to have equal partnerships, and that you need to give love to the world, and you need to send the message to other women to step in their power. And it's not being aggressive. It's not being mean. It's not being like, it's not. It's recognizing the struggle that our past generations, the women have gone before us, what I went through, and claiming and stepping up to the plate and taking ownership of our life, because it's not easy. And that's the other thing is I'll put this away. The thing about breaking generational patterns is that it's not easy. It is probably the hardest things, because this is the thing that you catch yourself gravitating to the same types of relationships. I mean, I'm going to explain to you, like, you need to literally have a slap in the face and be like, wait a minute, I'm repeating the same stuff and you shouldn't feel shame or, regret, because everybody learns their lesson in due time. For me, after my divorce, I think I said this the other day, is like I started just getting into these relationships where I was being abused, and not just abused physically. Abuse could be financial, emotional, psychological, mental. I mean, you can be put down. You could be, your credit cards could be cut off. And then you're like, how are you going to buy groceries? Well, I don't know. It's about control. The other thing about abuse I realized is, and it's not saying that it's right, but the other person, it's narcissism. A lot of people are very narcissistic. I mean, and it has it's deep-seated hurt from their past that they're not willing to acknowledge. I mean, they seriously probably had major, major issues in childhood, major. And you can't solve that for the person, and they may not even want to get help. Like you can have empathy for them and you want to help them, but you can't fix people, and they can't be healed on your timeline. That's the other thing I realize is like, you have no control over how fast they heal, when they heal, if they're getting help. And especially if they're the parent of your children. I mean, that's scary. That when they're the parent of your children, and you were abused by them, God willing, they don't do that to your children, and maybe they don't, but they just did it to you, which is a very interesting dynamic. The hardest thing, and I didn't do this, but the thing that when you go through that is not saying bad things to your kids about the other parent. It's called taking the higher road and not dragging your kids into it, because it's not fair, because their relationship with that other parent is a different dynamic, and they love them for them. And so it takes a lot of strength. It really is hurtful deep down inside. But it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. And again, this is called breaking generational patterns, is getting out of the toxic relationship. You can't stay in that. You don't want to live the rest of your life. You're going to get sick. You will die. You will die a slow death. I've said this to so many women. And again, I know more women because I own a women's female founder community where most of the women are married, were married, and have been in controlling and abusive relationships, not loving ones. They were maybe loving in the beginning, but morphed into this controlling and abusive. It is really hard to leave, to make the decision to leave. Sometimes you leave right away, like I did. Like, I'm out. I don't even have a plan. I just couldn't take it anymore. I think I stayed way too long. I stayed probably 7 years too long. 5, 7, around that time. A lot of women plot and plan behind the scenes, and they go call a lawyer. They, whatever it is, they plan, they save their money, they get a job, because it takes a lot. It's scary because you're starting from scratch, especially if you haven't worked and you haven't had a salary in years, 12 years. You've worked, but you haven't had a salary. And especially if you have like a startup and it's going to fail the minute you get a divorce. It will be like Sleeping Beauty. It will sleep for a couple years, and then then it will wake up. I honestly cannot believe I'm laughing about this now, because I have not been able to talk about this in forever. So anyway, I can't believe I'm laughing about this. This is actually a really good thing. So what was I going to say? Oh, so breaking generational patterns. So it takes a lot of strength to break patterns. Now, it's not just getting a divorce. It's even more than that. It's like literally, it's probably going to be for the rest of your life. Unfortunately, but it gets easier over time. You think it's going to be hard like this for the rest of your time, and you want to throw in the towel. I know I did. I have pictures of myself that I took. This is how crazy because I knew I was going to tell my story. I knew when I was in the thick of it that I would be on stage. This is how I think, guys. I don't know why. It's just part of me, because I see the future. I have a feeling of what the future is. I'm like, I better capture these moments, because I'm going to be on stage showing this, and I want to show the women out there that it can be done. I think I took a picture of me in the fetal position when I was Marie Kondoing all my wedding gifts in my old house, my old 7,000 square foot home. I sat weekend after weekend after weekend. I went through every single, I like unwrapped and picked up every single expensive crystal bowl. I'm like, this is negative. I don't want it. He can have it. I mean, there were expensive things that I didn't even care about the money. I'm like, I just don't even want to touch it. But there were some things from our wedding that I was like, oh, I really like this. Gives me joy. So I Marie Kondoed my house. And one of my chapters in my book is called Marie Kondoing Your Life. And then I had to go through all the toys. Oh my God. I had to go through. When did I, how old was my daughter? 13, 12, like 11 years of toys in our basement, in our huge basement, boxes. I had to get boxes. I went through 11 years of toys. Oh my God. Like, those plastic Hot Wheels race car thingies. And I had to put a pile of like donation, keep here for my ex-husband. And then what am I going to take with me? And I had to ask my kids, do you want this? Do you not want this? Do you want this? Do you not want this? That was a lot of work, guys. I had to Marie Kondo the toys. And you know what? That was emotional too. That was emotional. Seeing toys that I remember playing with my kids. Oh my God, when they were babies, it was really hard. I was crying a lot. I couldn't believe how much water was in my body. Like no wonder I'm drinking so much water now. I literally, it was really hard. This is not an easy task for especially if you've been with someone for 17 years. And then that's just the physical, but it's also emotional because you're remembering them and you're letting go. It's a process of letting go. And it's hard. It's hard because those memories were good memories, right? And then you're like, how did this happen? And then, the other thing that is probably the hardest is, in my case, for breaking generational patterns. So abuse, control, toxicity, like a lack mentality for me was really reinvesting in myself, investing in myself, and recognizing that I had to start from the bottom, reinvent my career, pivot my career, figure out what I'm passionate about, what motivates me. I had to clean house. I had to get rid of so many toxic people that had been in my life that were really keeping me down and judging me for my decision to get a divorce and multiple other things. Just low vibrational people that really were not supportive of me. But originally I thought they were my friends and they really weren't. You kind of see when you go through a life change like that, you see who are your true friends. And then, moving communities, sometimes I recognize that I knew right away, my intuition said, I have to get out of this town. I have to get out of this community. It was just toxic for me and it wasn't the right fit for me. And moving a town that was more diverse and just more, I just knew I needed to start fresh and I wanted to be close to my kids, but further enough away where I could really get strong again. So I knew that I had to rebuild my foundation all by myself. And it was really hard because I was really scared. I had to start from the bottom. And it really showed who I am at the core. I mean, I know who I am, but it really showed how strong I am. And one of the things that really affected me during this transition time was I was and that's why I couldn't even talk about my startup, Blazing Babes. My startup is a community of female founders and women in career transition, mostly leaving corporate, going to startups, launching businesses, scaling businesses. And for 7 years, or at that time was probably 5 years, I had scaled and bootstrapped this startup with no investment because I was not the breadwinner. My former husband was, and he wouldn't put any money into my startup. I had to actually generate revenue with $0. And that endeavor, what happened over the 5 years is I was getting in the paper, I was getting press, I was getting accolades, I was scaling, I was getting new members, I was revenue positive every month. And I was pitching to venture capital firms to try to get funding, and the answer was no, no, no. And I was revenue positive, and I wanted to scale. And yeah, so I've been through a hell of a lot, and so now we're repivoting. So things are good right now. So I don't want to live in the past. But the bottom line is that whole transition was arduous and hard, and this is going to be in my book of how I got to where I am right now. But it takes a lot of strength for someone to break toxicity, abuse, control, lack mentality. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of, people close to you, not in agreement that you've changed. You know what I'm saying? They like the old you, the old you that kind of stayed down. They don't like this rise. They don't like this new you. Because it makes them feel inferior. And you have to and they may have been a great friend or a great family member forever and ever and ever and ever. But the only way to break generational patterns is to distance yourself, and you can still love them from afar and, accept them for who they are. You can't change them. And you just have to focus on yourself. And, because you have to only allow goodness in you. You have to really eliminate people that are taking up your energy, your mental space, your positivity, your glass half full attitude, and you need to pour that all into yourself. And if your mental load or your mental or energy is with somebody else, or your time is with someone else, it's just taking away from now, there's nothing wrong with giving, but there has to be an equal give and take. And when it's always the other person draining you or people draining you, you have to walk away, especially if they don't support you, the new empowered you, the new elated, happy, vibrant you. And one thing that I realize is when I get negativity from family, negativity from friends, disapproval of this new me or whatever I am, how beautiful, sexy, confident, gorgeous, great body, makeup, everything, jealousy. It's jealousy. And when I get that from people, especially people in my family, people close to me, it's not me. I've done nothing wrong. I've in the past, I'm like, what did I do wrong? It's not you. It's them. It's them. Your light is shining so bright. It shows them their shadows. And it's not up to you to heal them. It's not up to you to fix them. It's not up to you to make them feel happy, because you're going to be drained. It's up to them to make themselves happy. You can still love and respect them from afar, but you cannot make them happy. You cannot fix them. You can't. And if they're not working on themselves and empowering themselves to be better, to be at your same upbeat, positive self, then you have to distance yourself. It's just the way it works. But anyway, getting back to this breaking generational patterns, it's not just getting a divorce or moving away or moving communities. Sometimes, especially in a divorce situation or maybe a situation where you have to continue to communicate with the person, it's really retraining the person to treat you better. And that's been the toughest thing for me, is communication with my former husband. Is the toxicity was still coming in even after the divorce. I'm like, wait a minute, I just got a divorce. Shouldn't this end? Shouldn't the toxicity to end? No, you got to train them. And so a lot of therapy going through, figuring out how to manage it. And you know what? They're on their own journey too. The other thing, it's not they're a bad person. They're not a bad person. They're on their own healing journey too. And again, you have no control over how fast or if they heal or whatever it is. You have no control. You just have to hope for the best. And, thankfully, we've gotten to, I think, cross fingers, we've gotten to a place of co-parenting where it's all about the kids. It's just about logistics. There's no toxicity anymore. There's no negativity. It's both of us kind of on our own healing journey. And, but in the beginning, there was a lot of accusations. There was a lot of, he wanted to throw his new girlfriend in my face, like, whatever. It's like, you know what? I go, okay, that's fine. Go for it. It just doesn't do anything for me. It's like, some guys don't even understand. It's like, you know what? That really does not like make me change my mind. Go for it. Have fun. I'm not mad. I'm just living my life. Yeah, I don't even want to get down. Yeah. But, you need to be friends with her. I'm like, I don't need to be friends with anybody. I'm not mad at her, but you can't force me to go and have lunch with somebody. I mean, it's like, so we've been through the process of getting back to some level of normalcy. But one thing I will have to say is you have to, I talked to a friend about this, actually a fellow Blazing Babe who went through very similar abusive relationship, marriage, and got out of it. But even after the divorce, she's like, look at this text he sent me. I'm like, that's really toxic. She's like, how do I respond? You need to coach me through this. I'm like, dude, no response is a response. She's like, I like that. I'm like, dude, this is what you say. You say, listen, if you can't text me or speak to me in a respectful tone, I'm just not going to answer. And the other thing I had to say, so I set that precedent, and you just have to keep reminding them because they forget. The other thing I had to do was, listen, I'm not responding to any text that doesn't have to do with logistics with the kids or like a decision for the kids. And anything else, it's not, or if he or whoever it is asking like a question that has nothing to do with the kids, is like, there's no response. Oh, the other thing I realized with me, this is just me, guys, is when you try to explain yourself, because this was my marriage, like if he would accuse me and I'd try to explain why I did something, it's a lot to do with narcissistic people. When you get accused of doing nothing, why isn't there a home cooked meal on the table? And you're trying to explain that you had like a Blazing Babe meeting, and he's like, well, you're prioritizing your career over the kids. When they start, and then you start trying to backpedal and say all this stuff, once you're out of the house and you don't have to deal with that, and there's a text that comes in, you don't have to respond. You don't have to explain yourself. So breaking generational patterns not only has to do with getting out of your current situation, but also then after you like handle all the mess, then you gotta start. Then what happened to me is I started still being drawn to the same type of people. Business and personal, because my self-worth, because I did not have enough self-worth about believing in myself, because I had been beaten down for so long. And there was a lot of patterns in my childhood too, where everything is like, you're not this, you're not this, you're not good enough. You need to be better. You need to be better. You need to be perfect. You need to look perfect. Like nothing is good enough. So if you were raised that way, where nothing is good enough, when you're older and you're in a marriage, you're going to gravitate to someone like that. You're going to gravitate to toxicity. And so I started just still going on dates and just being with men who were, and I was always looking for them to want me. You know what I'm saying? Because that's like a parent pleaser, a people pleaser, and looking for the love, because it's love, emotional love I never got as a kid. I got nothing in my marriage, no emotional love in my marriage. It was just roommates. And then I was like, what is wrong with me? There's something, first I was like, what's wrong? First I said, this was during COVID when I was reading all these this was in 2019 when I was like, who are these guys? Like, no, I went on a date with a guy who stalked me. I went on 3 dates. My therapist was like, I think you really need some dating experience. I think I said this on another podcast, another episode. You need some dating experience. And I said, you know what? She's like, you need to go on the dating apps. Match.com is really like normal. And, and she's like, I heard Hinge is really good. And I'm like, I'm not doing the dating apps. I said this to her. like in the therapy session. I'm like, for weeks, it wasn't a one-time thing. For weeks, I'm like, you know what? I'm not. It's beneath me. She's like, why don't you just go for an experience, just like to get out? I'm like, fine. So the first date I went on was on Hinge. I actually emailed. This is so me. I'm not going to tell. I'll tell the story. It's not being mean, okay? I know somebody's going to throw me under the bus. Fine, go for it. Whatever you want to do, throw me under the bus. So I was at a conference in Chicago. I'm like, I forgot what it was. I think it was a venture capital conference. And it was overwhelming. It was all day. It was like 12 hours. It was like the longest conference I've ever been. And it was in a hotel. You hop conference room to conference room. I was educated. I was investing in myself. And I'm like, I got to go do emails. I got to go to the lobby. So I'm like, it was 4:00. I'm like, I'm going to get a martini. I'm going to sit in the lobby. I'm going to get on my emails. I just do emails. So I was on Hinge, and everyone's like, Hinge was supposed to be like the exclusive where you get like the smart men, sophisticated, exclusive. That's how it was marketed. Now that I'm an investor, I'm like, and I know all the algorithms. I'm like, you know what? It's all marketing bullshit. So I'm thinking, I'm like, ooh, and it's referral based. So I was like on a wait list, and I'm like, ooh, I'm in. So this is exciting. I was so naive. And so I remember seeing there was a cute guy, and he was younger. They're all younger. And and I'm like, he's in Chicago, and he's like, are you free? Whatever, because we were texting back and forth or messaging back and forth. I said, well, yeah, I'm here. He's like, well, I live right nearby. And I don't even want to get into what he was saying. I'm like, you can come meet me in the lobby. He's like, I really can't. He's like, I'm in the middle of doing some investment. He was in investment banking. He's an investment banker. And I'm like, well, I'm not leaving. I'm not going to meet you somewhere. You can meet me here in public, because you got to be safe as a female. And so he didn't say anything, whatever. And then I was waiting in the lobby for him, and all of a sudden this person comes in on one of those, what are those Segways? A Segway. And he came in on a Segway. I'm sorry. No one throw me under the bus, okay? He came in on a Segway, and I was like, this is my first date on a dating app. Turns out he had a muscle disease, and his legs were really, it was almost like he couldn't walk. You don't understand. He's younger than me, like significantly younger than me. Very adorable, cute. I mean, gorgeous. And I was like, nothing on his profile, nothing. He told me when he was in high school, he was a runner. He was in track. Oh my God, you don't understand. I didn't even know what to say, guys. He's like, I didn't really want to tell you. I'm like, okay. And he's like, I was very nice. Because I felt so bad. I had all this empathy, but I'm like, but this is the thing. This is the thing. And so he's telling me he had like a blood disease, which makes the muscles like shrivel. And he's like, my parents and the coach noticed my time went down significantly. And then I was getting tired and weak. So it was like, I don't know, like a rare blood disease or a muscle disease or something. I don't know what it was. But anyway, even though I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, whatever. He's like, do you still want to like come up to my apartment or whatever? I'm like, no, I don't. He played like the sympathy card. I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry this happened to you. It's nice to meet you. Goodbye. I'm telling you, no, ew. And then, so that was my first. This is like public now, but I'm going to be on stage. I'm going to tell this story because I'm investing in a dating app. Trust me. Then I went on another. So my therapist, I didn't tell her about that one, but then I realized, and then I emailed Hinge. Oh, this is me. I emailed Hinge and to the customer service, like the head people. I'm like, who's the founder and who are the head people that make decisions? Because you guys were marketing that it's supposed to be like, exclusive, well-educated men that are like honest. First of all, there were nobody my age. They're all like 25. And I was complaining. I'm like, you know what? You don't have enough people, and it's bullshit. Everything that you've marketed is bullshit. I'm like, I'm boycotting you guys. Like I literally, I like tracked down the head people so I could complain. I'm like, you guys are all full of shit. And then I was on Match. I'm like, screw Hinge. I'm going to go on Match. My sister, this is what it was. I told my therapist and she's like, try Match. She's like, and then I knew my sister met her husband back in 2000. See, when I was married, 2003, probably 2005. Yeah, she met her husband in 2005 on Match.com. Now, Match.com, all the apps that were in, like eHarmony and Match in 2000, in the early 2000s are completely different. Now they're all toxic. There's all about broken people on it. It was terrible. But I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do Match since it's, it seems like it's more normal people. So I went on 3 dates. I'll end on this and then we'll do cards. I went on 3 dates because I have to go and get my nails done. I went on 3 dates. Okay, no, 2019. I don't do New Year's resolutions. I do a year. I do a word a year. I do one word. One word. It actually, you stick to your resolution so much better when you just pick one word. What's this year? I forgot what. Oh, family is this year. Focus on family. So anyway, my word for 2019 was travel. I'm like, I'm just going to travel everywhere. I want to go by myself. I'm going to go to Bermuda. I'm going to go to Vegas. I'm going to go to Nantucket. I'm going to go to the U.S. Open. I was Mexico like 3 times to see my family. Like I went everywhere. And so, so I went on Match and I had this date with this guy. He seemed like a nice guy. He was like a dad, had young kids. He was like a minor league baseball player, So I'm like, oh, he's athletic. He was in sales. He's like a regular guy, just a regular guy, And so I went on one date and there was definitely chemistry, whatever. And I'm like, I got to go. I think I was getting on a plane like that night to go somewhere for like 3 weeks. I was going to see my sister in Connecticut for 3 weeks for the summer and just hang out with her. And so he's like, when are you coming back? And who goes on vacation that long? Like he was very negative and like he was just so it was a lot of attraction, chemical, physical, like attraction, but toxicity. So he would be like in and happy and like, oh, and then the next thing you know, he would be toxic. And I found out not too long is that he was an alcoholic. And every time he was negative to me, it was when he was hammered. And then I found out he was depressed and he turns to alcohol to numb whatever the hell's going on with him. And he what made it worse is I didn't feel, it took 3 dates over, I don't know, a couple months because I was always traveling to figure this out. And then, what happened was when he was so toxic to me, he's like, your education shit, like all this stuff about me being negative, like all this negative stuff about me. And I'm like, you know what? This is not going to work out. You need to get help. Like I blocked him. And so he started coming after me on LinkedIn with threats. He would buy numbers and come after me on with the new cell phone numbers that you can buy 24 hours. Not to give everyone an idea, but you can do that. And text people, and then they go away. So I wouldn't recognize he came out, he would set up new accounts on Instagram and would come after me. And he probably still following me. He's probably listening to this. It's not funny, but it was really bad. And it was about 6 months maybe. And then I think there was a little bit of a lull. And then he came, and then I got a random scary. I remember I filed 6 police reports. I had to print out every single text, and now there's a file. I had to consider a restraining order. He had eventually said that he was going to hire like a hitman. I had to look into getting a camera installed outside of my door because I have kids. And so I basically was like, I said to my therapist, I'm like, not the right platforms for me. Obviously, I ended up stopping with that therapist. That was not a good idea. She doesn't know who I am. She doesn't know who I am. So that lesson actually was really good, because now I'm going to invest in a dating app that's safe for women. And the screening that they do right now in the current dating apps is not good enough. The screening that they do in the current apps is not just a background check. There needs to be like, how was your experience with the person? How did they, they need to be kicked off or banned from the platform if they're going to have that kind of toxic. It's very scary. It's very scary for women. And it could be for men too. But right now, I mean, there's a lot of toxicity on the dating apps. But anyway, I was being drawn to these toxic men. And it had to do with this breaking of this generational pattern. And so I was reading all these self-help books. Like, first I was like, what is wrong with these men? Why are all the men in the world like this? Because I had abuse from my former husband, and then I was in a relationship with someone who was in and out, all into me, and then all of a sudden would disappear. I'm like, what is wrong with these men? They're all like this. They're all like this. And then this guy, and then just a couple other people, but like just dates, And I'm like, forget this. Like, I'm out. And so then I started reading these books, and I think I might have brought them on a couple other podcasts. I'll bring them again. But I started recognizing that it's me. I'm accepting the behavior. Like, it's not just them. It's also me. And it has a lot to do with self-worth and investing myself and just saying no and setting boundaries. Saying like, you know what, this is not acceptable. And rebuilding my self-worth and being like, these are my must-haves. These are my requirements. These are my standards. And I don't care if I have to be by myself. If you can't meet me at this standard, then I'm totally cool. I'm going to be by myself until I can meet somebody that comes into my life that can treat me respectively with love, that can be vulnerable with me, that can express that's a gentleman. My definition of a gentleman. And not even just romantic. This was happening in the professional front too, guys. I was attracting all these venture capital guys, women and men, women who were very jealous, very negative, not helpful at all, use me, abuse me, dismiss me. And I was giving, volunteering, pro bono work, free labor. Some founders I worked with for 10 months, redoing their pitch deck, redoing this, treating me terribly. Interviewing for a venture capital, a new firm, them making promises, me doing things for them, proving my worth, and then them taking check writing authority away from me at the end when they were about to give me changing the role after I dedicated all this time helping them and waiting for my offer. I'm like, I'm done. So this is called breaking generational pattern. The generational pattern for me that I broke is people pleasing, not putting myself first, not investing in myself first, not prioritizing myself first. It's not being mean to the other people. The other people have to give to me just as much as I'm giving to them. And I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to give my time. I'm not going to give my energy. I am going to cut them off because they're not just meeting me at where I need to be. So it's been a it's been a very long road. And don't get me wrong, I'm not mad at the other people. Those people, that's just who they are. And they're probably hurt from the past. They were probably used by other people. So they feel like they have to use others. If you were used or abused, it's hard for you to trust others. So typically you just always think someone's going to take your job away, or you're going to be better than them, or whatever it is. So I'm not mad. I understand, but I choose not to be with those people. So you can distance yourself and understand what they're going through and have empathy and understanding from afar, but you don't have to hang with them. I guess that's the whole lesson that I've learned through breaking this generational patterns is self-sacrificing and, dimming your light. Like if you're beautiful and sexy and gorgeous and youthful. You actually get younger as you age. If people are angry at you that that's happening, you shouldn't lower yourself to make them more comfortable. You should shine bright. It's not being mean to them. It's being yourself. If you're really smart, super brilliant smart, and you know what you're talking about, like and someone else is not happy that you know all these things, and they make you feel bad. First of all, you have to distance yourself from them. Second of all, you keep talking and you keep saying your truth. And it requires really distancing and cleaning house, getting rid of all the people that are negative. It's really, really hard to break generational patterns. And I'm going to be on stage talking about this subject because it's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. At times it can feel really lonely because one of the other things is that's part of this generational pattern is codependency. So when you're a people pleaser, when you're a parent pleaser, when you grew up in this environment, you're looking for love and you're not getting the emotional love that you want, that you need for the type of person that you are. You're just not getting it. You're getting more of like, stop crying, pick yourself up, and you didn't get that in your marriage. And so you don't even know what love is. You don't even know what love is. You don't even know how to receive that. You have to give that to yourself first. So that's one of the things I've learned is like, you should love yourself the way you want someone else to love you. And when I mean by love yourself, I mean like, for me, like buy yourself flowers, take care of yourself, get dressed up, look nice. These are the things that make me get your hair done, get your makeup done, go do Epsom salt baths, and float, go on vacation by yourself, talk to people, enjoy the beach, go to the beach, go walk in nature. Meet new friends, dance. What I say, buy yourself flowers every week, which I do. They make me happy. I never did that. And that was never modeled for me growing up. That was never modeled for me. And so my kids are seeing me do all these things for myself and see how happy I am. And that I want them to see that that's how you should take care and love yourself. Loving yourself is not a selfish act. Loving yourself is the right act. Because if you love yourself, you don't have to look for someone else to fill your cup. And if they're not filling your cup, then you become resentful. And quite honestly, when you are in a relationship with someone, it's a two-way street, it's a two-way communication, and you need to tell each other what each other needs. If one person is not saying what they need, or if one person is saying what they need and the other person's like, oh, I don't care. That's just not a healthy relationship. Anyway, I don't know if that's helpful, but I'll talk about this again. Let's do cards because I got to go. What's an experience you've had that not many people know about? I mean, everyone knows this. I'm going this whole life renewal transformation hardship. People will know because it'll be in my book. I'm on chapter 3 right now, by the way. Everybody can. I have a long way to go. What's an experience you've had that not many people know about? Gosh. I mean, there's private stuff I don't want to say, but I want to be able to talk about this. My whole, what I went through in my marriage, how it changed, because I think it happens to a lot of women and men. You're in it and you're like, you think you're in it and you're optimistic, you go into it, but things change, dynamics change. You know what? And I said that I thought about this a couple days ago, right when and I will write in my book, this will be part of it. It'll probably be a whole chapter. Right when kids came on the scene, the dynamics shifted in the marriage. It wasn't like hot and heavy and sexy like it was, or fun. It wasn't really hot and heavy and sexy. It was fun before. But right when kids come on the scene, it can be, the tables turn. It went into the more traditional role. And I think it has a lot to do with how the other person's parents' dynamics were. When you see the parents' dynamics in the childhood, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm reading into it, but I don't want to go down that path. What's the most romantic marriage proposal story you've seen or heard? Um, I like the ones where it's like least expected. You know what I mean? Like you have no clue. It comes out of the blue. Like there's no plan. You know what I mean? Like every time I see one, like you don't even know. You know what I mean? You don't even know. And it's I like that. And I like meaningful, and I like the ones that are meaningful. And I don't know. There's not really one on the beach. For some reason I always think somebody like being on the beach because that's my favorite place. I mean, that's what I would want, like something on the beach near the waves. Um, but it has to be. I like the ones where it's not planned. And you see the photos and stuff. It's who's videoing it. When you see people doing it, like who's videoing this? I don't know if I want to video it. I think it should be a private thing. I've been thinking about this for days, on and off, but now recently, I'm starting to get anxiety about this. Like I don't know why I'm getting anxiety, but I always thought this is a big change in me, guys. How do I articulate this? I was always about posting social media pictures, like with my family and my former husband. And it wasn't to show the world that we're together, because that wasn't the point. It wasn't any of that. And maybe because we didn't really have a lot of intimacy or really love, we were like more like roommates. And he hates social media, so it wasn't even a demand from him. And I never really cared. But the way I look at it now, if I was with somebody who I loved, and I just feel like my relationship with the person is private, and I don't want to hide it. I don't want to be hidden, because I've been hidden before by many men. For some reason, they're hiding me. I should not be hidden. Look at me. It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know why they're hiding me. I should be front and center. It's just, what the fuck? Sorry. But it's true. I'm like, I should be front and center. But the point is, I don't want to be with the relationship. The relationship, my relationship with the person is not for show. It's not to prove to the world that I'm happy. It's not to prove to the world that we're happy, that it's not. It's not. Now, because I do believe there's a lot of couples that are posting just to prove to themselves and to the world that they're in love. Now, am I saying that posting a photo with your significant other isn't a good thing and a wonderful thing? I think it's the intention. I think it's got to be the right time. I think it's got to be the intention. I think I have a lot of anxiety about it. I don't know why, because I don't like showy stuff. I believe that when you're really in love with someone, that it shouldn't be a secret. It should just be very personal, intimate, meaningful relationship where it's not about show. I've been thinking about that for days, in and out for months, in and out for maybe years. What percentage of the things you say are BS? Settle. I am the number one non-BS person you are ever going to meet. When I say something, it is the God's honest truth. I am not exaggerating. I will tell you the truth, and I will never bullshit you. That's one thing you'll get from me. Whether it's personal or business, you guys get it from direct, clean, with no embellishments. And if I do embellish, I'll make sure I'll let you guys know. Which food would you choose to be calorie-free? Oh, pasta. Oh my God. Yeah, homemade. Pasta and pizza. Yeah, carbs. All right. What new invention would make your life easier? Oh, I told my kids I want, in the Jetsons, Rosie the robot, she cleans the house. And then I think my son was like, Mom, they have that now. Like, what's that thing that's like a circle thing? My ex-husband has it. It's like, because he doesn't clean. The thing, and it like moves around and collects all the dirt. I go, what's that thing? I went and picked up my kids. I'm like, what's that thing that's moving around? He's like, I forgot what he said. I'm like, I want that. Is it more important to be friendly, funny, or kind when making a new friend? Oh, and funny. I said this before. I think you have to be funny. Everybody needs to be funny. It breaks the ice. All right, this is a girl power one, and I got to go. I have to go get my nails done. Self-care. Ready? I don't even know who this is. Gabriela Mistral. She was the first Latin American to receive the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1945. As an educator, she boldly advocated for the rights of women, children, and the disadvantaged. She served as Chile's representative to the League of Nations and as the Chilean delegate to the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women until her death in 1957. Wow. See? I don't know who she is. Do you prefer to be good at many things or really good at one thing? Oh. I prefer to be good at many things. You don't understand. This goes back to sports. This was me. I was like a 4-season sport player. I played, so I was like above average in soccer. I was like maybe average to above average in tennis. Average to below average in swimming. Like I struggled, but I did it. Lacrosse, I was average. And what other sport did I do? I think that's it. I did lacrosse, soccer, tennis, swimming. That's it. Like those were my like consistent sports. Like my whole, not through college was tennis and swimming. But yeah, but I was like good, average to above average, and then swimming was below average. My sister, both my sisters are. My little sister, she should have stuck with swimming. She could have been an Olympian for sure. She was 8. Or was it 6 and under? Yeah, she was doing 8 and unders, beating the 12-year-olds. I mean, she was a fish. And my middle sister now is an amazing swimmer because she practices almost every day at the Y. I think she's at the Y. Maybe she stopped the Y. I don't know. But no, and I'm multifaceted, guys. Like I'm good at a lot of different. Somebody said this. One of my Blazing Babes that I was running next to the other day, like years ago, she's like, I said, oh, we were at karaoke. We were at a karaoke bar. And my friend was an amazing singer. She's like up there doing her thing. And everyone's like, Renata, you have to do it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm like, I'm really bad. They're like, no, you're good at everything. Whatever you touch, you're good at. You got to do it. It's like, I'm good at a lot of things. Yeah, it's part of who I am. I'm good at a lot of things. I'm not great at one thing. I'm good at a lot of things. Anyway, I don't know if that was helpful. It was a very hard topic, but I hope that it was helpful. Happy Friday, guys. I'm excited for the weekend, and I hope everybody has an awesome weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Bye.